morning. Welcome to Enduro 360. I'm your host, Chili White. Today we are up here on top of Palomar Mountain. It's a beautiful wintertime day. It's Monday. I thought it'd be nice and quiet, but I forgot it was a holiday. So got a bit of traffic up here, but we are testing something just a little bit different for us. We have the brand new, all new 2013 KTM 690 Duke. This was introduced in Europe last year, but it's just made it to the US. Now, something like the Duke might seem like it's a little bit off of my territory. I'm kind of off my beaten path here, but keep in mind, you know, we've tested the 690 Enduro a number of times. It's really one of our favorite bikes. I really enjoy riding that bike. And, well, I am Mr. Off-Road Dirt Bike. You know, there was a time when I owned a Ducati, worked at a Ducati shop, and lived it right at the base of Angeles Crest, and sport bikes used to be pretty much my lifeblood. So it's kind of cool to get back to a real dedicated street/sport bike. I will be the first to admit that when it comes to the KTM street bike line, it's been somewhat of an enigma to me. There's definitely parts of it that just haven't quite struck home, but this is a bike here in front of me that's definitely making me rethink some of that. When we talk about single-cylinder KTM bikes, really the Duke model goes clear back to 1997 when they first put LC4 motor into a true street bike chassis. That bike always had some interesting things, but the heart of it was that it was still a dirt bike motor trying to be a street bike. This is something that is very, very much different than that. This is the 690cc version of the newest LC4 motor that was bumped up from the 650, which was the actual displacement when this was introduced. And this is a very unique, pure street motorcycle. And the heart of it is this: when we ride 690 Enduro, that bike actually it's a nice bike on the street, but what really became obvious when we were testing earlier this year the Husky TR650 was how different the BMW derived 650 motor in the Husky is. Much smoother, much more at home, the kind of motor that makes you feel like it really wants to ride all day on the street. 690 Enduro, that's never quite been that motor. This is that motor. Now, when we sit down and look at the spec sheet, this is exactly the 690 Enduro motor for most of its configuration. The real difference is this brand new twin plug head. So it has an all new head, and then the electronic fuel injection, fuel mapping, fuel whatever is all new. Hey, look, no throttle cable. This is a fly-by-wire motorcycle. So what does it mean? This motor is, boy, it really strikes me as being significantly more powerful, particularly in its torque characteristics. It's just amazingly strong right off the bottom. And then the really big news is all of the vibration in this bike is just completely gone. 690 Enduro, once you hit about 65 on the street, there's just, the vibration starts to creep in through the bars and pegs, and it's just, you know, it becomes a little bit uncomfortable. I can put this bike in third gear, run it clear to rev line, and hold it there, and there is no vibration that creeps in at any time. This is a really smooth, really powerful motor. Put it in a cool chassis, and this is one great ride motorcycle. I'm completely in love with it. I want to keep it. I want to spend more days riding with it. Okay, let's talk about some chassis things. First of all, styling wise, you know, this bike, when you sit on it and ride it, it really reminds me a lot of basically of a Ducati Monster. It's kind of a unique look. The bodywork is kind of cut out here around the tank where your knees really fit into it. That's really almost more Buell-like. So, you know, I don't know if you want to compare it to something or consider it all its own. Trellis style frame. This big, massive exhaust that comes out. There's a lot of exhaust there. But you know, that may be some of the power characteristics right there, is they've got so much room to play with the exhaust that they can keep it quiet but still really work with the power characteristics. Slipper clutch inside there in the 690. That thing is just marvelous on the street. This thing is so smooth. You can just stab the shift lever to shift down in corners, and it's perfectly controlled. Foot pegs. Actually, that's an eccentric bracket, so you can turn that around 180 degrees if you decide you need to raise the pegs. In general, the seating position on this bike looks fairly small, but at my 6'1" height, I actually still fit into it pretty well. The seat is really comfortable. They've actually really put some work into the design of the seat. But between the seat and the way your knees fit into the gas tank, at 6'1", when I sit on it, there's only one position. There's no moving forward or back. I'm right fixed in there. Good news is, in general, that's a very nice seating position and pretty comfortable. This bike is ABS equipped, and that is really kind of a nice, unique feature for a KTM. The rear brake that we're looking at here, I gotta say, there's not a lot of rear brake power in this bike. It's all in the front brake. In the rear, basically, it goes from not a ton of power to engaging the ABS, which it engages relatively early on this bike. Rest of the styling, of course, we got big plastic hanger out there holding up our license plate. You know, it's kind of a squatty looking motorcycle. I'm sure people will find some ways to modify that a little bit. Instrument gauge is pretty much standard KTM, with the one exception of it is that it now has a gear position indicator that comes up right here. Right there, we're sitting in first gear. The ABS on this bike is on-off program, so you can turn it off. Standard bars. The fly-by-wire, I really wondered what that would be like. It just feels like a really nice fuel-injected bike. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to notice about it while you're riding. Power delivery all the time on this bike is actually quite smooth, very predictable. With a couple of days of riding time on here and getting to blast around some of our favorite canyon roads from San Diego County, as a dirt bike guy, I gotta give this thing pretty much a full thumbs up. I really enjoy riding it, and just wish I could spend more time on it.
Third gear, dead stop.